I've entitled this podcast, Why Does the Bible Say to Hate Your Family? But properly worded, and of course it would be too long for the title, it would say, If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. This verse is found in the 14th chapter of Luke and verse 26. And to give us some further light on it, we can continue reading for the next little bit. And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest, haply, after he hath laid the foundation, and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build, and was not able to finish. Or what king, going to make war against another king, sitteth not down first, and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is a great way off, he sendeth an ambassage, and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. So, from that last verse, we can clearly see that what's actually required here is a forsaking of all that you hold dear. Like, for instance, your brethren, your mother, father, sister, etc. Ordinarily, human beings tend to hold their closest relatives as their dearest things. They're the things which they care most about. The important thing to remember is that God must occupy the first place in our hearts. God has to be the most important thing in our lives. He must be the one we love above all else. If he is not, if we do not love him above all else, then we do not know him. We are not Christians. We have not been born again. It's about love and hate. We love the Lord. We hate sin. Christianity is all about love and hate. We love certain things and we hate certain things. We love God. We love God's law. We hate sin because sin separates us from God. As the Catechism question asks, what is sin? And goes on then to answer it by saying, sin is any want of conformity unto or transgression of the law of God. The only way we can know God is through his law. The only way we can manifest love to God is through his law, that is, by obeying it. The only way we can manifest hatred to God is through his law, that is, to break it. We cannot hate God as a personal being because we don't and cannot know God as a personal being. Because we are sinful, it is not possible for us to know him personally. As it says in another place, no man can see God and live. And that's because of our sin. The only way we can manifest love or hatred towards God is through his law. And that is why in this world today we see people desperately seeking to contradict God's law. Putting all of the effort that they can into it, discovering things which are perverse before God and embracing them. This world is going further and further in that direction. The modern world is clearly doing that. And Christians, true Christians, are becoming more and more unpopular as this continues. That's how it goes, that's how it works. That's how it's always worked, basically. And when it says here, if you hate not your father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters and your own life, well, what you're hating is the separation that sin causes between you and God, and witnessing the same in others. And if your closest relations, or anyone else, or anything else for that matter, occupies the place in your heart which God ought to occupy, that's the chiefest of your desires. If you love anything as much as or more than God, that is sin, and that separates you from God, absolutely. And if any person enters into that area, then that person comes between you and God. And if you're a Christian, and Christians do sin, Christians do err. If you're a Christian, the difference between you and a non-Christian is you know what sin is. You recognize the sin in yourself. This is the first thing that you were taught as a Christian, and this is something which goes on. It continues. And, you might, for instance, come up against the situation whereby a close relative maybe makes you maybe contradict God's law in some way, and you know it, and perhaps you don't have the strength to do the right thing, and you do the wrong thing just to please this person, or something like that. You can recognize it as a Christian, and you've erred, and you feel the conviction for it, and you hate the cause of it. And the cause of it may well be that you didn't want to cause offence between you and your brethren, your relative or relatives, or friends, or whatever. So, insofar as, for instance, your relative might pressurize you in that way, and you recognize it, well, you hate that situation. You're not hating them personally as a being, no, but you are hating the situation of your weakness with regard to the fact that they are related to you. So it's the hatred is to the relationship causing the problem. And also where it says your own life also. Well, you've got a life in this world, and we as human beings enjoy ease and comfort and so on. We don't enjoy adversity. We don't enjoy persecution. But the Christian life requires persecution. It's part and parcel of what we experience. It's part and parcel of the Christian life. Persecution, for instance, discomfort. The Christian life, it cannot be a bed of roses. Faith must be tried. And, our weakness with regard to our human nature. Human nature has many weaknesses. Christians have weaknesses, and we have tendencies towards the wrong things, and we will embrace through weakness what we ought not to embrace often, and this causes us to hate our own lives, in that our life is full of weakness, causing us to contradict and break God's law. Even though in another place you'll find that it says that the Christian cannot sin, but it doesn't mean he doesn't actually sin. It just means the sin is not held to his account with regard to eternity. When he leaves this world, when the Christian leaves this world, they immediately pass into glory, as the Catechism informs us. The Westminster Shorter Catechism informs us. These many sins we've committed as Christians, they're not held against us. But while we're in this world, we will be chastised for them. We will be chastised. Chastisement being a teaching device to instruct us, to nurture us, to keep us on the straight and narrow. If we are without chastisement, it tells us, then are we bastards and not sons. So, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple.